Good morning, this is Heather Hoffman, and I'm here today with a card, my first card using the brand new May 2020 Kit of the Month from Unity Stamp Company. We all know it's graduation season, and even though that looks a little different this year, I thought it'd be fun to put together a couple of graduation cards so that we can still celebrate those big moments. So I've already pre-stamped my images on craft cardstock and white cardstock, and then die cut those out with just a stitched border die. And then I also have two additional of each one that I've carefully fussy cut out with my detail scissors, and I fussy cut out the entire image, and then I just fussy cut out part of the image, and I'm going to do this to create kind of a dimension onto my card when I'm all done. I'm starting off by outlining that image on my paper just with some warm gray, just to add a little bit of a shadow and some depth around. I'm just using varying shades. On the craft I started with a deeper shade because once it dries on the craft, it's going to soften and you're not going to see it as much. And then I'm starting with a lighter shade. I think I started with W5 on the craft and then W3 on the white, and then just went around, gradiated out, and just kind of blending it out to create a little bit of a shadow all the way around, just for a little bit of depth. All right, now that we have that finished off, we're going to add some shine onto those fussy cut images. So I have a clear embossing pad, and I'm just kind of smearing it directly onto those images that are stamped there. Make sure your ink is dried completely before you do this so that you don't smudge that at all. And then I'm using some clear embossing powder just to sprinkle over the entire image. These are my reverse tweezers that just kind of hold on to them without me having to pinch, and it's really great for these pieces that are already cut out since I want to cover the entire panel. And then once I've got that fully coated, I'm going to go ahead and run my heat gun over it to heat emboss that clear powder. And you can kind of see how it just melts on there and adds some shine to the surface and kind of enhances that image a little bit. But we're not going to stop there, because a second coat is really what finishes this off and makes them a really dimensional embellishment. So I'm going ahead and rubbing that embossing pad once again, just like before, only this time over that slightly smooth surface from the first coat. And then when you do the second coat, I think it works so well because it remelts the powder that's on there as well as the new powder you put on. And it makes it just a really thick, shiny coat on there that's really fun on the finished card. Makes it look almost like a sticker embellishment. So a great way to add just some shine and depth and dimension onto those. I did that on the smaller pieces as well. And now I'm going to carefully use a little bit of liquid glue and just adhere those in place onto the original images that I have stamped and colored around. Just adding little dots of the glue kind of around the image. And then because it's so thick and dimensional, it wants to curl up. So just put a little weight on there. I'm using a clear stamp block to hold them both in place. And while those dried, I went ahead and added foam adhesive to those other bits and pieces I added. It didn't take a super long time for that to dry enough to hold in place. But now I've got that image carefully paper pieced in, and I can add those additional pieces with foam adhesive over the top. And what this does is it just kind of layers on top. It's not a step you have to do, but I like that extra dimension you get and kind of the 3D effect that really adds to the depth on there. You can kind of see that as I tip it around. Adding a little tiny black crystal to the top of the graduation hat on each of those, and then reversing the base on the card base so that these kind of go back and forth between white and craft. And you know me, I love a good 2-for-1 card design. And so this was a great way to be able to use both parts and kind of reverse the image both ways and get two cards kind of almost for the effort of one. All right, thanks so much for coming by today. That finishes these off. I will see you again next week. Have a great week.